Hello everybody and welcome to the second Bizango Blast developer video. I've made quite a bit of progress so far. I've only still have one level because I don't want to add the other ones yet because when you have to recompile stuff it just takes forever. So with just one it recompiles pretty quickly. I added some sounds and no music yet, and let's take it for a spin. So the physics are still a bit weird. I haven't like really tweaked it yet. And I added shattering to the objects. And there's all of that too. So let's see what's new. Um, the menus are fine. I've added a bunch of sounds and stuff. I tweaked the particle effects. I worked on the shaders. I kind of really like how the clouds came out. There's like nothing too special about it. It's just the outline that's also a mesh and a bit of SSS shader. These also have some SSS shading to them. A cool thing that I did was with these pillars, with the breakable stuff, because they're all the same. Um, I can change the material, so that's a stone one, that's a metal one, which will be harder to break, um, and there's a glass one. I guess I broke the shader, but that's supposed to be glass. And if you go back to the wood one, you can also change their shapes. So there's a plane, there's a box, and there's a ball for later on. And also, to keep things interesting, they will always have like random colors, so it's always a bit different. I mean, it's always still like a woody color, but it every time it'll be a little bit different to mix things up, and to prevent everything from looking too samey. I've also added a little bad guy. He was not really in the original, but instead of just the robots, I figured something that's actually alive would be more fun. So they're the ones using the robots to steal your eggs. Uh, so the same deal with the eggs and the bad guys. Uh, it's one object, and it's the script that changes. I don't remember how many I did. I did 4. I did 5. So okay. Um, the bad guys too, but so far I only have like 2 of them like programmed. So there's the urchin dude, and there's this dude. I know the offset is there because of the way the axis is, but I add the offsets to compensate for that. We can actually look at the blueprints to see how they are made. So these are the destructibles, like the pillars. So um, we have a type variable that's editable. It's just an integer. We have a shape, so we can assign those numbers in in the in the editor in here. So we can just change them here, and also they can be changed dynamically if needed. The tracking is for me to track like the stats. Um, so instead of tracking all of the pillars with just a flow of data in the console log that would be impossible to follow, I can just have one of them give me the data on how hard they're getting hit and stuff like that, so I can calibrate the damage for them. Anyway, so when they are constructed, I clamp the type to the maximum, so that way if you put 4 or whatever, it doesn't just give you an empty object, and the same for the shape. Yeah, so I assigned the points here and this. I have a lot of text renders like this to give like a fake 3D effect. It's kind of like the palm shader in a weird way, but just done very primitively and manually, and I assigned the color offsets to kind of give it effect. It works well from far away. I mean, it's the only problem is when you look at it from the very side, but I'm sure there's a way to like work that out. But for what I need, it's pretty cool. It's an easy, cheap way of getting 3D text. I will change the font though anyway. And then so I set the meshes, and I have like I like the select thing. So based on the shape, it chooses the mesh that I need. So either the pillar, the plane, the box, or the sphere. I also have a destruct mesh, so that one also gets assigned. So like remember we're playing. I'll show a better example of it. When we're playing, I'm gonna hit the pillar and you're gonna see that it's gonna fracture into lots of little pieces. That's pretty cool, eh? And I have this like weird fading away effect for it. Woo. I don't know why the motion blur does that, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, so let's go back to the blueprint. So what happens there is that since I couldn't like really get the mesh to fracture at the right damage that I wanted because it would just explode at whatever impulse, I just do the old switcheroo. So when my thing gets enough damage, I just swap the meshes around and send the impulse and break it. This makes sure everything is the right scale. This sets the maximum damage that it needs to receive before breaking, and based on the type, there's different amounts. So glass is the weakest, wood, then stone, then metal is going to be the hardest. And if it's glass, um, it gets its own glass material that didn't work before, but I don't know why it didn't work. I'll check it out later. And then I also set the weight of the of the uh the pillars and stuff based on like the material. So wood is obviously the least dense. Stone I would assume is the most dense. Metal is not as dense as stone, I think. Right? Yeah. And then we have some we created dynamic mesh material instance, so we can assign them their material. There's a base material, and they can be assigned their diffuses if needed, and based on their type as well, so shape and type. And then so we do that for the diffuse normal map. Also set the metallic because obviously the metal should be very metallic, I guess. Specular, roughness, and the color blend. So like the randomness in the color comes from this. So uh, I just fudged the numbers a little bit. So I have like the base brown for the wood, and I have like a white-ish for the stone and a bluish for the metal, and I just fudged the numbers by just a little bit, and it makes a nice little subtle difference, and that's how I make these pillars dynamically, so that yeah, so I can just move them around. They'll always be a different color. I can change their type. Oops. I can change their shape, and so I don't have to like have lots of different blueprints. I just have one blueprint that does all the heavy lifting. I can track its stats if I need to. But the event graph of it is a bit. It's not so bad. I mean, there's a begin play. I get the score and I save it, and then I count how many there, how many breakable objects there are, and I pre-calculate the score. Let's go back to the pillar. And then, so most of the action, it pretty much does nothing until it gets hit. And then I take the normal impulse, I break the vector. I try and subtract gravity from it, but I'm sure I'm gonna have to like make this a little bit better. So if it's under 18,000, then it's nothing because it's constantly getting like 18,000 because of the physics. So I mean, if that was there, they would just all just break eventually over time after a few seconds, I guess. So I try and cancel that out, and but if the impact is over 18,000, I should also subtract the 18,000 from here, I guess, and then have the difference, you know. But here it adds everything full force. But I think I'll leave it that way because like a lot of stuff falls and it doesn't break. Anyway, so we get that, we check. So if it's like a 5 under 500 units of impact, we just do like a, a particle effect that's like chips or sparks of sparks of metal if it's a metal, or chips of wood, or some rock pebbles. But that's not really working because I just have like one particle effect, so I need to do like the select for the type and stuff. And also I'm gonna have to do, well, I started doing the select for the type, so I only have the wood sounds, no stone sounds yet, no metal sounds yet. And then here's the important thing. So here it's like when the impact reaches its impact maximum, so that's when it's gonna die. This is just for the tracking stuff, so I was tracking the raw seed, the filtered seed, and the total damage. Um, or if it falls off the level, um, it goes and it adds a breakable dead, so it counts. So we did the pre-count, now we're doing the post-count after to compare the scores afterwards. We play the sound of it exploding. I did it by location so we can get like that 3D sound. And there's like, it selects a random, so it's random like breaking sound, so out of 4, so it's not too repetitive. I like to like randomize the pitch a bit to give it a bit more variance. Then we hide the pillar, this one, and we swap it out for the breakable mesh, and then we give that physics. Yeah, there was a funny bug here with the destructible mesh. If I had left it as destructible or whatever and just changed its collision, it would not work. It would just like go through everything. So I had to. The only thing that I got it to like respect the physics after the change was to give it no collision and then assign the collision profile afterwards, and then it would work like it should. And then I get its speed and I apply it as the force of destruction. So if it's going fast, it spreads out, and if it's just lying on the ground and it gets hit, it's just gonna crumble upon itself. And the hit location is itself, because if you don't give this, nothing's gonna happen. I would like to actually be able to find its hit location. Like specifically, I guess I could get it from uh, this. I'll try that out and see if it could actually get like the specific spot. So if it got hit on the top would be the part that breaks first and not just like the center. And then once that's done, there's like a 7 second delay, because if I delete the actor immediately, like everything goes away. So like the explosion and everything. Uh, so it's just lying on the ground. It shows up the point thingy here, so I get the and make it face the cannon. But I don't know, sometimes it doesn't work for some reason. And then after a while, I just do like this, poof, make it go big and then come back. So I make the target arm go up, and I make the text get bigger and smaller. And then once all of, and then I shrink the debris after a little bit of time, and I destroy the actor. And basically that's the same concept. If I wanted to take it much further, I could have actually combined these, and the bad guys into one single mega blueprint, because they all kind of share very similar code. If you look at the bad guy versus the pillar, bad guy, pillar, it's a little bit different, but it's basically doing almost the same thing, really. It would have been, I don't know if it would have been easier or harder. I don't know. Leave your opinions if you want, but having it like this makes it easier to look at in the viewport. At least I know, like, okay, this is an egg or whatever. But I could have added a whole other like limit selector is switch on int thing so that I could have like 0 for the pillars, 1 for the bad guys, and 3 for the eggs, and just have like this one mega blueprint like managing all of that. Another thing that that I realized is like pre-plan stuff. Pre-planning stuff is very important. Um, I wish I had pre-planned a little bit more. I just assumed that since I had already made this game, I'd remember everything that would have that made it hard the first time. But I mean, I did avoid a lot of the pitfalls and stuff, but they're new ones that you fall into. The reason the tree's floating is because I decided to be cheeky and make the trees like random, but I realized that they have random lengths in the trunk, so it doesn't work. The pause menu was quite a challenge to do because it actually has a lot more code than you think. Because I'm using it as the pause menu and the game over screen, so it's doing double duty. That's one thing of putting all your code into one blueprint and making it do a lot of work. It sometimes gets a bit hard to manage. But anyways, let's lose. I also fractured the eggs because I thought it would look cool. So like, but they need like a gel, or I don't want to put blood because so if you destroy all the eggs, it shows you and you get booed by the audience and stuff. So let's kill an egg but still win. Oh, if that had hit, that would have been nice. Oh yeah, those sounds. And there's the last one. So when you kill an egg, you can never get like, so if you kill 2 eggs, you can never get 2 stars and stuff like that. And then so you have your score. There's something wrong with the score though. It's not remembering, because I remember last time I played, I was like a 50 something thousand. So I'll have to check the save system. And I increased the range of the cannon, so you can actually, I don't know why, but if you want to, you could. And let's try and get a perfect score. Well, the trick here is to work from the top down. Yeah, you see, so he didn't get that much damage when he fell, so if I was to filter that 18,000 extra on the fall damage, like you'd almost never be able to kill them by making them fall. Helps by having things fall on them. And if you get a new high score, you get that, but the fonts need work, and I'm working out on stuff. I like how it looks like it's painted in the back. Oh, wow, it crashed. How embarrassing. Well, I'll end the video there. I hope you enjoyed it. Um, yeah, thanks for watching.